job. I almost lost my CFO job. About 14 years ago, when I was a fairly new CFO, I was in charge of an organization that had multiple stakeholders. Once it so happened, when my CEO was on vacation, I get an email from him. And the mail said, "Can you urgently transfer about $1 million to a tax haven?" I was in a dilemma. What am I supposed to do? It did not have any information. So I decided to call my CEO and ask him. But well, his phone was off. And you see, he was the kind of guy who believes it's my way or the highway. So I wasn't quite sure. What do I do? Because I am, end of the day, answerable to my stakeholders. So then I kind of thought about it and I decided to reply to his email just to save my back. Thankfully for me, when I hit the reply button, I noticed something a bit weird. It had his official email address and then some weird characters after that. That got me suspicious. So I called my IT team and asked them to investigate this. And well, like you would have guessed, it was a cyber fraud that had originated from Spain. That's what my IT team told me. And my friends, that was the first time I really understood the importance of cyber security. So how is it in your organization? Who leads who? Is it cyber crime or cyber security? Is it stress or mindfulness? Is it the business loopholes or the business values? Think about it. I definitely want to appreciate the humongous responsibility all of you have in ensuring the safety and security of your business. But at the same time, I'd also like to acknowledge the challenges that you may be facing, especially when it comes to getting the requisite approvals within your organization. So my friends, that's what I'm here to talk to you about. To see how the CFOs and the boards, how they look at the tech spend, how are they going to look at the ROI and the risks associated, and how you, as the security officers, can navigate your way ahead. So let me start off with a boardroom story. A smart CISO, and he had an awesome investment proposal to be presented. Multi-crore spend, sophisticated architecture, and an impressive dashboard. But guess what? The proposal was rejected. Do you know why? Not because he lacked intelligence, not because the proposal was not worthy, but simply because it was fully in tech jargon. While you are the domain expert and you're probably familiar with all the tech terms, well, not everybody in the room is familiar with it. And that becomes a translation gap, which is what I'm here to help you address. Tell me, have you experienced where you're so excited and you go and present a proposal and then you're told, let's revisit it next quarter? Yes?
Expert is actually a bonus.
Yes, so that keeps happening. And tell me, did you feel, let a cyber incident happen? That's when they will know the importance of this proposal. Yes, sounds familiar, right? Yes. So how do we bridge this gap? How do we ensure that things are not lost in translation? Because the proposal, the idea behind it is probably brilliant and your organization probably requires it. So how can you ensure the smooth transition? So that's what I'm here to help you with, my friends. So what can you expect from my talk today? I'm going to leave you with 3 key things. Firstly, I'm going to share a 5R framework that's going to help you evaluate your investments and take the right decisions. I'm also going to be sharing 6 practical hacks that you can use so that it becomes easier for you to get the required approvals. And I'm going to give you 7.5 steps to help you achieve and grow your business. You know, many times when a proposal is shared, you know the common question that's being asked, how much does this cost? But do you know the right question to be asked? What's the value that's being created? What's the value that's being protected? What's the value that's being accelerated? Because that is going to help you answer the difficult questions that you may be facing. So let's start with the 5R framework. The first R is about risk reduction. So what are the risks that are going to get reduced by adopting your proposal that you're sharing? Is it the financial risk that's going to come down? What about the operational disruption that it may face? The regulatory risk, the reputational damage? What is it really protecting? Talk about that. You know, many times, insurance, you know, people look about the cyber as insurance. But the reality is, cyber is a risk mitigator. And that's a key difference that you have to highlight. Tell me, do you quantify in your proposal the cost of inaction? Because that is a huge miss. Sometimes the biggest ROI that you may get is simply the fact that a huge disaster of say 500 crores was prevented. That is a huge risk reduction. So let me leave you with this thought. What's the cost of inaction? What is it going to cost your organization by not acting upon it? Think about it. Let's move on to the second R, which is nothing but return enhancement. So by adopting to your proposal, what are the returns that are going to increase? Is the top line going to grow? What's the impact on the margin? Is the productivity going to increase? Are you able to get new customers? Can you have a go-to-market strategy? Talk about those things. Evaluate that. So the thought I'd like to leave you with is, what's the role cyber is playing in winning deals for your business? Talk about that. The third R, my friends, is resource efficiency. How is this going to help get better for your resources? Is the manual efforts going to come down? Is duplication going to get eliminated? What about the cost of capital? Is that going to increase? Talk about that. Because resource efficiency helps in the business growth. So the thought here I'd like to leave you with is, what exactly is the investment funding? How is it helping the growth of the business? So that again is going to help you evaluate and grow your business. The fourth R, my friends, is resilience. How is your proposal helping in the recovery speed? What about operational endurance, business continuity? And these are important aspects that the boards and the CFOs would love to hear. So what exactly are you highlighting? Do you talk about the significance of resilience? Include that in your proposals. And the last R, and the most important one, is relevance to strategy. If you were to look at the big picture, how exactly is cyber being relevant to the business strategy that you have? Is it helping in digital transformation, your AI ambition, mergers and acquisition, expanding the market share? How exactly is the role that it's playing along with the business strategy? So the thought here I'd like to leave you with is, what's the connect with the business strategy? And if you can link all these together, my friends, that will be very impactful for you to evaluate and get the most ROI out of it. Talking about ROIs, we all know traditionally how the ROI is computed. But let me tell you something. The boards like the strategic ROI and not just the regular ROI. So what is a strategic ROI? It's nothing but your value created plus the risks that are being avoided and the options enabled. That is going to be your strategic ROI. So it really depends on how well you're going to position your investment. So this is a great bonus that I have given you. So see how you can implement this. And here, I'd like you to just pause and reflect. Which of these 5 R's are weak in your narrative? How can you make it stronger? What actions you need to take? How is it going to strengthen your proposal so that you get the maximum ROI out of it? Think about it. By the way, I have a WhatsApp community. It's called Fly High. It stands for Finance, Leadership and Your High Performance. So if you'd like to be part of it, feel free. It's just 1 or 2 messages I keep sharing each day. Moving on. Sorry.
This is the non-chat and rules part where we take pictures. So.
Nice. So next, let's talk about those hacks. So before we go into the hack, I want to say something. When you're presenting your proposal to your board, to your CFO, whoever is the approving authority, there are times that I've noticed something. Chigarbaluju, Champachalabacha, Chigaruju, Chigaruju, Chakrashos, Pinkachalup, Pinchalalu, Chigaruju. Did you actually understand what I said?
I definitely did not.
And that's what happens many times. You all know it in your head. You know the benefits so well. You know how important it is. But when you're getting it expressed and presenting it to your board, they don't get you. That's because you're speaking in a tech-heavy language, my friends. How do you expect others to know the significance of it? So here are some practical hacks that you could probably use so that it makes life easier for you. So the first hack is lead with the problem. What do I mean by this? You know, if you were to just go and say, oh, there is this new cyber platform and we need to get this for our organization. Why? Come on. Whereas if you were to say, there is a huge risk exposure that the business is having, and I have evaluated, and this particular platform helps us solve this problem, the position completely changes. Right? So lead with the problem and then the solution all the time. The second hack, speak with real life examples. Talk about the success stories, and especially if your competitors are adopting something, highlight that, because that's when there is a FOMO, fear of missing out, right? Or even if there's somebody in your related industry, if they have adopted it, talk about it. The third hack I would want to share with you is to talk about the impact of delay. What happens if we postpone this, let's say by 12 months? What happens to the risk? What about the opportunity lost? Is there a competitive disadvantage that you have because of it? Highlight those aspects. Because the cost of inaction has an impact on your business. So highlight it, because if it is not visible, nobody will know. The next hack is a secret hack actually, where you need to pre-wire your stakeholders. The fact is, boards don't like surprises. So before the meeting, if you could go and get informal approvals, be it from the chairman, the CEO, the audit committee, risk committee, CFO, whoever it is, if you were to talk to them and explain to them, this is a particular proposal I'm planning to bring to the board, and I'm going to seek approval for this. Answer their questions, engage with them so that they become familiar with it. And therefore, getting your approval becomes a lot easier. The fifth one is give options. When you go and order a pizza, what do you have? You have a small, medium, and large, right? So, can you give options to your board? Because they know you've done the homework well, you've done a thorough research, and it signals maturity on your part. So probably you may say, this is the base case, this is the recommended case, and this is the stretched case. So if you could go and articulate it in such a manner with your board, it makes it a lot more easier for you. The last hack here, my friends, don't make a complicated deck with some 72 slides. Nobody has the time or the inclination to look through it, and they don't understand. Instead, make a simple one-pager. What is the problem? What is the value that's being created? What are the risks that are mitigated? What is the investment required? What are the different options? And what is your recommendation to it? Simple, clear, everybody understands. Because remember one thing, let me be very honest. The boards don't fund the tech jargon. What they are ready to fund is clarity, the efficiency. What does it really bring to the table? What is the value add of it? And that's what is going to help you achieve what you want. So these are definitely some of the hacks that you can steal and see which ones you want to implement. Oh my God! I was wearing a diamond bracelet. Did any of you see it? It's my mother's and I'm responsible for it. Oh my God. did I tell her? It has sentimental value. So sorry. There is no point crying over spilt milk. Because in your case as well, you are in charge of your business. The security and the safety of your business. You are responsible. If something goes wrong, you are going to get blamed for it. In hindsight, you could say, oh, I could have done this, I could have done that. But the moment it hits badly. So what I want to ask you, my friends, is what are the cyber practices that you're using that's actually mitigating the risks that you're being exposed to? Think about it. Because it's in your hands. You are the decision maker for this. And you can evaluate the best. Talking about the third one, which is growing business value. Let me share those 7.5 steps to it. The first, move from KPIs to outcomes. Stop talking about the uptime, the patch, the incidents that you've done. Doesn't matter. Talk about the outcomes, measure what matters. Talk about the revenue that's grown, the speed that's enhanced, the risk that's reduced, the value that's being created. Those are your outcomes. And by doing that, you're projecting yourself in a better light. People know that you know the business, and therefore your growth also becomes faster. Second is to shape the strategy. There's no point in going to a party after it's all over, right? You need to be there at the party. You need to be there when the decisions are being made and being shaped about strategy. What is that AI ambition? What is the digital model that's being done? What are the different market expansion strategies? Be part of these discussions. Be an influencer. Shape the strategy. The third, should you meet your CEO or a board member, let's say in an elevator, are you ready with a 60 to 90 second pitch that you can get the approval then and there? Elevator pitch is something important, not your tech narratives, but the value narrative. Are you prepared with that? In fact, I do a workshop for my clients. It's called Financial Storytelling, where all of this gets covered. And if you want support, I'm happy to work with you on this. The fourth step is to build trust. Trust has an economic value to it. And cyber maturity increases this trust quotient. Your customers are happy. Your partners and associates are happy. They start trusting you. The market feels a lot confident about it. Your valuation also starts to increase. So remember, trust has a financial impact. You're all established, well-known tech leaders. But can you be a little more than the tech leaders? Who know a little more into the business aspects, who can add a lot more insights. For example, it can be tech plus finance, tech plus governance, tech plus strategy. So can you add a little bit more into it? Because those kind of skills are rare, and rare is always valued a lot more. The next important one is to reframe. Cyber is helping you get global clients, new markets, maybe meet the compliance requirements, and adding a lot more value to the business, it no longer should be considered as an overhead, but should be reframed as a growth enabler. First, reframe it in your mind, and then when you're going and positioning yourself and talking about it, this makes a whole lot of difference. So can you reframe and reposition yourself? The last one, the seventh step, is on prudence. Can you just apply logic? Can you apply acumen, business acumen, when you're evaluating to see how it's going to add value to the business? Because that is going to open a lot more doors for you. And of course, we will talk a little bit more about this with Harold in the fireside chat. So I told you 7.5 steps, right? So what is this half? I want to share this real life incident. Like you know, I'm a business and leadership coach. I work with different senior leaders, and once it so happened, I was coaching a senior executive. And during our coaching conversation, he told me something very important. He told me, Sangeeta, you know, I don't really have problems with my budgets. That's not the constraint. But you know what? The decisions are all already made. And they just tell me afterwards that, you know, this is what has been decided. I feel like a puppet. I feel I'm not contributing to anything. I'm just doing what is being told to me. So this, you see, is not a budget problem. It's a positioning problem. So we worked together on this, and guess what? In a couple of months, he stopped sharing business proposals. He started sharing business insights. He stopped reporting incidents. He started shaping decisions. He started shaping growth. And that created a huge shift in the way that he was being perceived. Because his career trajectory started to grow. He was looked upon as an influencer. He started talking about the legacy that he wants to leave behind in his organization. My friends, each of you here have this potential. You can also be somebody who's shaping it all. So, what can you do about it? So that, how will you become the architect of enterprise value? The next decade of tech leaders who are going to be successful are not the ones who need to go and ask for budgetary approvals, but it's those leaders who are actually shaping the enterprise value. So what can you do to be shaping that for the future of your organization? Think about it. So this is what I do. I work with leaders and teams on growing their purpose, performance, and profits. And of course, these are my books, so I'm so glad that you all have got the signed copies of Who Leads Who. My bestseller is called What the Finance. It simplifies finance for business leaders. Get High is how to coach yourself for high performance in your work. It's an activity-based book. And Waste the Moolah is about financial growth hacking for business profitability. So how can you keep growing and scaling and getting into much better decisions? So I'm happy to connect with all of you. You can find me as the Game Enabler. I'm active on LinkedIn, YouTube. I keep sharing different stuff on finance, leadership, and high performance. And I keep writing articles. So when I missed to mention on trust, I have written an article based on Pushpa Sala Jhukega Nahi, right? So from that movie, you know how he's inspired in building trust, so it's there in the articles, you could probably look at it. But before that, I have a couple of more slides to share with you. So we have been speaking about the 5R framework, which talks about the risk, the returns, the resource utilization, the resilience, and the relevance to strategy. So I want to urge you to see how can you utilize these. What about those 6 hacks that I shared and the 7.5 steps to grow your business value? Because there's no point in just listening to this, but how are you going to implement it and translate it into your business? That's something very important. Because, like I told you, technology leaders who grow the enterprise value are the ones who will be shaping the future of the organization. I want you to imagine a long truck, and the truck has 8 different wheels. The truck has to move from here to its next destination. It has to accelerate its speed so that it can get to the destination on time. But imagine, even if one of those wheels are not functioning up to the speed, what happens? Do you think the truck will be able to reach its destination on time? Entire process is gone. A business, my friends, is no different. And in fact, this is what I've spoken about in my other book, Where's the Moolah? A business is like a wheel. Your customers, your people, your strategy, your tech, suppliers, finance, marketing, these are all the different functions that enables the business to move and propel ahead with great speed. So how can you be the tech enabler of the business so that your business can propel ahead, can accelerate ahead and get to its required goals? Because remember, the onus is on you. Because you're in charge of the safety and security. You are the domain expert. The others are probably oblivious to it. And therefore it's up to you to see how you can collaborate, how you can educate them to get to where the business wants to grow. Because होश न खबर है साइबर अटैक क्या है, होश न खबर है साइबर असर क्या है, अटैक होने के बाद लोअर, हाँ बिजनेस वैल्यू गोस लोअर. Cyber, 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 is it secure, secure, secure? Cyber, 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 हाँ secure, secure, secure. Wishing you the best of safety and cyber security.
Sumesh, we're going to just put some chairs on there and do the fireside chat. So give us a couple of minutes while we move things around. And we're back. So I'm sure there's going to be plenty of questions to answer. So, perfect.
You can turn off the slides.
Sorry? Just wanted to introduce Harold. Just say thank you very much. If I take a mic, and if there's any questions, then let me know if you want to talk to someone. You guys carry on.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Thrilled to join you here on stage. That was a fantastic talk.
Thank you, Harold.
I think so much of that resonated with experience lessons learned over the years, right? Presenting to boards and learning what's effective, what works and what doesn't. So thank you. I have a couple of questions, and I'd love to get your perspective. So thinking about this, we all are aware of our stakeholders. CFOs are critical stakeholders for CISOs. When you hear cybersecurity related spend, are you thinking about this in terms of costs, risk mitigation, business enablement? I mean, the honest perspective, right?
Okay, if I were to be very honest on this, the first instinct a CFO gets is, oh, the cost. What is it going to cost? What is the damage to my bottom line? That's the natural instinct. Like how probably, when you all are thinking about security, and that's how CFOs are wired. So while that is the truth, and you can't change that, the more important aspect is, like I mentioned, you will have to start highlighting. What are the benefits? What are the value? How is it going to help the business? It could even be the cost of inaction, or it can be, like an enabler, like I was mentioning. What is it really bringing to the table? Because there has to be some real tangible ROI for it. So you need to highlight that and not just say, let's go ahead with this investment.
Thank you, Dr. Sangeeta. So certainly, our organization is deeply focused on cyber resilience. And I think this is a conversation that's happening more and more at the board level. What has happened, from your perspective, what has changed around cyber resilience at the board level?
Okay, so whether we like it or not, the fact is there's a lot more cyber incidents that are happening. And as organizations, we need to be prepared. We never know from where what sort of attack can happen. So we need to be more proactive in it. Right? And that is why I think the cyber has become an important point for discussion in the boards. Because nobody wants, sad story like the diamond bracelet that I mentioned. Nobody wants afterwards to say, hey, what happened? So it's being more proactive to it and taking more cautions and steps. I think that's why it's more important. Basically because the number of incidents are a lot more higher.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're seeing the conversation around resilience can be a really tricky one for CISOs, because oftentimes what we do is propose ways to avoid the bad, right? All the investments in prevention, very limited on the recovery. What happens when the bad thing happens, and how do we manage through that?
Yes. In fact, an analogy that comes to my mind is, at least in India, we've seen so many two-wheelers on the roads, right? And most of them, at least down south, they don't wear a helmet. It's okay, you could get away, but should there be an accident, the helmet becomes something so important. And that is why it's better to travel with the helmet and without. So it's very similar is what I feel.
Absolutely. So let's shift gears a little bit. So is it fair to say downtime is a financial risk? How you think about, if you can take us through how a CFO might think about downtime as a business consideration?
It has a direct impact on productivity, and when your productivity is down, it means your top line is down, and therefore it has a direct financial impact. So if you can link it and most importantly quantify it, then it makes a huge difference. To say, if there is a downtime for 1 hour, this is the financial impact. If the downtime is for 1 day, this is how much money we lose. That's when it gives them a wake-up call, because downtime as such doesn't mean much. But if you were to translate it and say, hey, this is the amount that's being lost, that is a wake-up call.
Yeah, I can imagine that also helps frame when you say, I want to make an investment to help prevent that.
Yes.
It's a much more natural frame.
True.
Because you can compare that cost.
True.
So there is of course a hidden cost to cyber events. Do you think organizations really are getting that understanding?
By default, they're probably not, until they are hit. And that's why I keep saying that, you are the domain experts, and you will need to highlight to say this is going to be the impact, right? Because they're not wired for it. They are specialists in the finance domain, but they might not think. I mean, not all of them will think. And therefore, you will have to keep reminding them and saying that, this is what it is.
So, thinking through that for a moment, what makes a pitch compelling, right? CISO's in front of you, they're laying out their business case, if you will. What makes it really compelling?
So that's why I insist on the elevator pitch. And when you're designing an elevator pitch, it would be great to include some numbers. This is going to help us save X million dollars, for example. Or, as a growth enabler, it's going to help us get more business, probably to the tune of X amount. Imagine you go to your CEO and you say, I have a proposal to, or even simply, would you like to grow the business by X amount? I mean, who's going to say no? Yeah, tell me more. Right? That's how it would automatically translate. So if you can make something as compelling as that to, say, this is what is the value. And then you make them curious to know more. Hey, how is that possible? Tell me, I mean, what should we do? So that's how you start with a hook, I would say.
Yeah, I saw something on your previous slides. You talked about financial storytelling. So just continuing on this compelling theme, right? I do think it's an important skill for CISOs everywhere to get really good at storytelling. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Okay, so main idea is to not just read out from the slides. Anybody can do that. And if it's a topic that they're not really interested, it's easy to just switch off. So how can you make it interesting for the other person, right? Now, see, I wouldn't know much on tech, and if somebody were to go on tell me, this is what it is, that, like, I'm probably going to switch off. And the attention span is so limited, right? And vice versa. If I'm going to talk about too many heavy financial things, you're going to switch off. So what can be an interesting manner? How can you make it